see you.
Yeah. Just again, that you feel comfortable. Thank you.
Oh, you guys are here. Good afternoon. My name is James Rice, and I study physics and chemistry at the University of Canterbury. New Zealand border security is quite good. We even made a TV show to point that out. But despite how good our airport security is, we still have common cases of invasive pests and diseases coming into our country, which can disrupt our ecosystem. The Varroa bee mite, the kiwi fruit PSA virus, there's a bunch of options that we've had come into the country recently. I forget the last one, sorry. And all of these can threaten our ecosystem. And that's dangerous to a farming nation like us. We rely on the ecology of our country for our economy. So we should really care what happens to our ecosystem. And having these pests come into the country is definitely not what we want. But if they're not coming in on tourists or visitors, then how are they coming into the country? The answer is that they're coming in through bulk imports. We're a fairly isolated nation. We're tucked away at the bottom of the South Pacific. We rely on imports for many of our goods, especially food. And despite being a farming nation, we mainly farm dairy and sheep. So we need to import many of our fruits, vegetables, and grains, especially when the ones that we do farm are in the off-season. And these are fruits and vegetables which can support the pests that we need to keep out. In fact, Statistics New Zealand said that last year we imported 6 million tons of fruit and vegetable. That's 6 million tons which can support those pests. But how do they get through? We screen our imports when they come into the country. But the truth is that our screening regulations really aren't strict enough to make sure that those pests don't come through. A typical ship that comes into Auckland Port has 5,000 to 6,000 containers on it. And MAF regulations say you only have to chemically fumigate them if you see a pest in those containers. So this means that some facilities will check everything. Some will use a sampling method, say every 5th container to save time. But others just don't check thoroughly. This isn't good enough for us to be certain these pests are staying out, and that needs to change. Admittedly, our current chemical fumigation is actually quite good. We have 2 main chemicals we use in New Zealand. We have methyl bromide and phosphine gas. Both of these work by alkylating parts of the RNA protein which replicates DNA and stop them from replicating it, which causes cell death and kills any organisms that it comes into contact with. The problem is that both of these chemicals are actually quite expensive. A single kilo of phosphine pellets, which is roughly enough for a single container, I believe, that costs $350. Now, if you think about having 6,000 containers in one ship, that's just over $2 million just to fumigate that ship. That's definitely not a cheap option. So that's partly why the regulations are what they are. It's the most practical method of securing our borders when chemical fumigation costs so much. Simply put, we can't make our regulations stricter until we make a new technology which can do it cheaper and faster. I have a suggestion for that. Irradiation. Irradiation is where you expose something to a high dose of electromagnetic radiation. And usually it's X-rays, sometimes it's gamma rays. We've all had an X-ray before, haven't we? You don't come out of the dentist glowing after just one X-ray. It's the same thing here. You just change it so that the dose is high enough to be lethal. But like an X-ray, once you stop the irradiation, the radiation is gone. It's almost impossible to tell that it was irradiated in the first place. All it does is pass through the import, kill anything that's there, and the way that it does that is by creating oxygen radicals in cells which break down DNA and prevent cell replication. Better yet, it's a very cheap option once you've got the facilities and the cobalt-60 cores in place, because the facility is very cheap to maintain and run. You just need the manpower. And when you compare that to $2 million for a single ship, it's actually a much cheaper option. Better yet, it's creating jobs to look after those facilities. And a single cobalt source can last for up to 5 years before needing a replacement. And it's a technology that we've been using in New Zealand, ironically, for a very long time, for at least 40 years. This is a technology that's been used globally in hospitals, not just for cancer treatments, but also to sterilize medical equipment before surgery. And that's perfectly safe, and we already have the facilities needed. So it's a small step to transfer that over and irradiate food as well. On top of that, it has no effect to taste, texture, or the nutrition of the food you irradiate. You just can't tell. All in all, I think it's a solid option. It'll help secure our borders. It'll help make our ecosystem more stable without these pests coming into the country. And it'll help MAF do its job better without having to get rid of the pests that do come in. So, on that evidence, I am utterly convinced that irradiation is the future of New Zealand border security.